Today's episode is based on true horror stories from villages. And perhaps you would say that the silence of the village is so soothing. But my belief is different. The silence of some villages is strange, as if something is buried beneath that silence, as if something is hiding there, something that doesn't come out openly, but creates a fear in your veins. I have brought 3 horror stories from the village for you. All 3 stories are not just from different villages, but are also different from each other, and just as strange. But before telling the stories, I would like to say one thing to you. These stories are based on incidents that happened in villages, and therefore, at the author's request, I am going to tell you the story by changing the names of the places and the people involved in these incidents. And at the very end, please do comment and tell me which of these stories you like the most. So let's begin the first story. My name is Vijay. This story is not something I heard somewhere. I experienced it myself. I cannot tell you which district that village is in, but it is situated at the very edge of a famous city. The village's name is Nimbawadi. The village is small, old and mysterious, surrounded by mountains, farms, and this small village spread out between them. When I had just gotten my new job, I had to go to Nimbawadi for company work. At that time, I had no idea that I would witness a frightening incident in that village. In those days, I lived in a bachelor's room in Pune. About 4 to 5 years ago, I was working for a builder's company, and during that time, one day it was decided that I would go to Nimbawadi for marketing. The village was small, but land plotting was going on there. I thought I would get work done and also get to see the village a bit. The company had set up a small office on that side. There was a shop nearby, too. After finishing work, I went to that same shop to have tea in the evening. It was there that I met a girl working at that shop. Her name was Surabi. She was from that same village. She was quiet but sharp at her work. Gradually, my visits there increased due to office work. I became friends with Surabi. We would often sit at the shop and chat. With time, Surabi started opening up, and one day she told me something that still makes my soul tremble to remember. "Brother, do you know there's a well towards the back of our village? But the villagers are very afraid of that well." I laughed hearing this. "Oh, come on. Wells are common in villages. What's there to be afraid of?" "No, this well is not ordinary. The villagers call it the swallowing well." Seeing the seriousness on Surabi's face, I fell silent. I didn't say anything, but a strange curiosity was born in my heart. The atmosphere of that village was also somewhat strange. During the day, everything was normal, but as evening fell, silence would descend upon the roads. Children wouldn't be seen outside, and most people would close their doors. An unknown terror loomed over the entire village. That evening, Surabi started telling me some things from her childhood. And then I understood how deep a darkness was hidden beneath the silence of that village. She was telling me a story. When I was in the 6th grade, that year, terror had cast its shadow over the village. 5 people died in a single month. 1 woman, 2 girls, and 2 boys. They all jumped into that well and ended their lives. Surabi was telling me, and I was watching her intently. No one could understand anything. People were dying one after another. The police came. An investigation happened. Some said they had gone to bathe and drowned. Others said some of them had committed suicide. But the villagers knew the real reason was something else. Everyone felt that there was something in that well that pulls people towards it, pulls them into the water. Hearing this, I got a little scared. So I asked her, "Then why do people go near that well at all?" Surabi paused for a moment. Then looking at my face, she said, "I don't know, But I think there's something in that well that hypnotizes people. And whoever goes there once doesn't come back. Or if they do, they are not the same as before. There was moisture in Surabi's eyes. Still, she told me an incident that still makes my soul tremble to think about. There was a poor family living in our neighborhood. Husband, wife, and 2 children. The husband used to work as a laborer in others' fields. They had 2 children. The older sister was about 9 to 10 years old, and the younger brother was about 5 to 6 years old. A simple, poor, but very lovely family. The parents worked in the fields all day, and the 2 children stayed at home. Their only job was to play all day long. One afternoon, the 2 children were playing with the other village kids, and while playing, that girl's ball went far away. She didn't know which direction she was going, because her ball went straight towards the well. Hearing this, a strange chill ran through my stomach. That little boy went to get the ball. His sister saw him running towards the well, and seeing that, she ran after him. She saw her brother standing at the edge of the well, staring fixedly into the water inside, as if someone was calling him. His sister ran and pulled him back forcefully. Then, she didn't have the courage to stay there. She shouted at her brother and took him home. But after that, that child completely changed. Surabi was quiet for a few moments. Then she started telling again. That child suddenly became silent, would never talk. If anyone asked something, he wouldn't answer. Didn't like anyone touching him either. A strange coldness had come into his eyes. His voice had become deep, like an adult's. His parents first took him to a doctor, but it made no difference. But one night, a very strange thing happened. Everyone was sleeping at night. The parents were both tired. The children were quiet too. But at midnight, the door creaked. The mother woke up. She saw a shadow standing near the door. First it was big, then it became small. How is that possible? Yes, but it happened. Surabi was quiet for a while. Fear was clearly visible on her face. Her voice was trembling, but still she kept speaking. That boy's mother got up, went towards the door, saw that her younger son was standing there. She was about to run and grab him when she heard her son's voice from behind. "Mom, Mom." She turned to look. Then she found that her son was lying on the bed right next to her, and his eyes were closed, as if he was mumbling in his sleep. Seeing that, the mother's mind went numb. She turned back towards the door, but by then no one was there, and at that moment she heard a strange laughter from outside the door. Her whole body trembled. Laughter. She went back to bed trembling with fear. Surabi's voice had become softer, but deeper now, as if the memories of that moment were floating before her eyes. After that day, that family's life changed completely. The child became stranger day by day, always sat quietly in some dark corner of the house, voice heavy, eyes red, wouldn't eat or drink anything, and wouldn't go out to play either. And then one day, something happened. One day, he didn't eat at all. His mother served him food, but he sat quietly in the corner. Then his mother went to him, started stroking his head, and while stroking his head, she said, "Son, what happened to you? Why are you sitting so quietly? You don't even talk to anyone." His mother was still stroking his head. Suddenly, that child grabbed her wrist tightly. So tight that the mother screamed. The surprising thing was, how could such a small child grip so hard? His grip was like that of a grown man. His mother screamed and tried to free her hand. "What are you doing? Let go of my hand." He looked at his mother angrily. His eyes were glowing red, even in that darkness. His teeth were chattering like an animal's. He jerked his mother's hand away and shouted at her angrily. "Mother, don't touch my body. How dare you?" he said. "You dared to touch my body. How did you have the courage?" The mother couldn't understand anything. Scared, she got up and went out of the house, and seeing that, his sister also ran out of the house. Both of them couldn't understand what was happening there. Then his parents went to the villagers, went to the priest too, tried all remedies, went to the temple. But nothing was working. Surabi was telling me the story, and I was completely lost in it. I had no attention for anything else. She said further, that night another strange incident happened, just like the first one. At night, the door started making sounds. The door started rattling, so his mother woke up. They saw someone trying to open the door, and a small shadow was standing there. The mother quickly woke her husband, but in the meantime, she realized that the shadow was of her own son. She looked at the nearby bed, and her son wasn't on the bed. Both got up, went to him, turned on the light. His father pulled him away from the door, and then they started speaking to him. "What are you doing?" And just then, that boy turned his neck angrily and said in a strange voice, "Mother, you touched my body." He had said in a strange voice, "You touched my body," and that voice was of a woman. Hearing that strange voice, his father got even more scared and stepped back in fear. They now understood what had been happening to them for the past few days. It wasn't an ordinary matter. The son wasn't speaking properly, wasn't eating, and now these antics. Just then, his sister also woke up. Finally, nervously, she told the family members that he had gone near that well. It was like an electric shock to the parents, and they understood everything. Surely something had gone wrong with him. That night, they somehow tied him up and put him to sleep because he was completely out of control. He kept kicking and thrashing, was hurting himself, kept running towards the door repeatedly, as if he wanted to go out. They took him to an exorcist. That man looked at the child and after a while said clearly that there was something in this child. Perhaps two souls, a woman's and a man's, who want to possess him. And hearing this, the child's parents were terrified because all this had started after he went near that well. The exorcist gave them some sacred ash and said to apply this ash on him daily and never leave him alone. Not even at home, and definitely not outside. The mother then took a week off. She started keeping an eye on him all the time. She would apply the ash daily and take care of him, and then, gradually, he started calming down. They thought everything was getting better. But the red glow in his eyes and the terror in his speech weren't going away. Finally, his mother thought she would have to go to work now. It wasn't possible to leave the labor work. The child's condition was improving, and there was the older sister at home, who was about 9 to 10 years old. They explained things to her properly and gave her the responsibility of looking after her brother, of taking care of him. Surabi paused for a bit, and then I asked, "Then what happened? Did he get better?" Surabi took a deep breath. That day, everything was going normally. Both the brother and sister were at home. He had the ash applied, and the sister was keeping an eye on him. But in the blink of an eye, everything changed. Both were playing at home. And at that moment, they heard a truck horn from outside. A truck was passing by on the road in front, and while playing, suddenly his brother stood up and ran towards the door. That little girl, that child, couldn't understand anything. Before she could do anything, he opened the door and ran towards the road through the open field. His sister also ran after him. But by then, it was too late. That boy was standing by the roadside. There was the same red glow in his eyes. There was a strange, scary smile on his face, and a truck was coming at high speed from the front. Telling this, Surabi's voice started trembling. That 5-year-old boy just once looked back at his sister and smiled faintly. His sister was shouting at him from afar, telling him to come back. But the very next moment, that boy threw himself in front of the truck. The brakes were applied, but it was too late. The child was already under the vehicle on the road. His blood was flowing everywhere. The sound was so loud that the people standing nearby started screaming and shouting at the horrifying sight. But there was nothing left to do. Everything was over. Then people started saying that the well had taken another sacrifice. Someone said that there is something in that well that possesses people's bodies, dominates their souls. The news reached that boy's parents. They both returned home, crying and screaming. His sister was trembling, and there was only one thing on the faces of all the villagers, and that was fear. Having said this much, Sarabi fell silent. But that story started revolving in my mind. That night, I stayed in the village for some work, and after dinner, I went out for a walk from my office. Then, my attention went towards that well in the distance, and I still remember it today. There was a slight smoke rising there. Faint shadows were moving. It might have been my delusion, or perhaps the shadows of souls wandering around that well. That well is still there, just as old, black, and terrifying. Now the village has grown bigger. It has changed. People come and go. New houses have been built too. But there is still silence around that well. A silence that feels alive, as if something is breathing there, waiting. I got transferred, but this story, this memory, and the shadows of that well are still with me. Because some places are like that. They don't let go of a person, and some wells are not empty. There is something inside them whose stomach is never full. So friends, that was today's first story. Now, let's start the second story. This story that I am going to tell you today, I heard it in my childhood. In our village, people still talk about it. Saware village, nestled in a corner of the Konkan region, surrounded by greenery. All around the village, there's just dense forest, mountains, and winding paths. A small village, but a rule has been followed there for years, which people still obey today. And that rule is to never consume non-vegetarian food in the fields. The elders used to call this rule the curse of the soil. But whenever the villagers tell city people about this rule, they think it's just a story passed down through generations, which is merely a superstition. But the villagers knew it wasn't a superstition. Behind it were terrifying incidents that had happened to some villagers. In this very Sawar village, my maternal uncle, Gopal, lived a few years ago. At that time, his family consisted of his parents, his elder brother, and him. Just 4 people. They had a large field, a little distance from the village. Gopal wasn't very bright in studies, but he was hardworking. He loved farming. When Gopal grew a little older, he used to go to the fields daily to water them. Many times it would be midnight by the time he returned home. But he never stayed there overnight. Just as everyone in the village knew that rule, he also knew that consuming non-veg in the fields was strictly forbidden. And if anyone broke this rule, they said that something there would start haunting them. Gopal had been hearing these things since childhood, but he never believed them. Still, he had never broken that rule. But one day, morning came, and Mama still hadn't returned home. The family thought he must have slept in the hut at the field. But in the morning, when they checked, Gopal was nowhere to be found. Everyone started worrying, because Mama wasn't old enough to stay out all night. Mama's mother got very anxious. She told Mama's father and elder brother to go quickly and check in the field. At that time, there were no mobile phones or anything. His father and brother quickly reached the field. They looked in the field and found Mama lying unconscious near the hut. Worried, they tried to wake him up, but there was no movement. People were called from the village. With great difficulty, they put Mama in a vehicle and took him to the hospital. After treatment, Mama regained consciousness shortly. The doctor told him to go home. But even after returning home, Mama wasn't willing to speak at all. Fear was clearly visible on his face. Then Father sent everyone out and sat in front of Mama. He asked affectionately, "Gopal, didn't I tell you never to make such a mistake? But you did exactly that." Mama was a little surprised and said, "Which mistake, Father?" Then his father said more sternly, "When we came to see you, all the people were standing around you, and then my attention went to near the hut. Bones and leftover food were lying there, and then I understood what had happened there." And hearing his words, Mama remembered that night. That night, there was some activity in the village. It was his friend Rohit's birthday. There wasn't much population in the village. Everyone knew each other. Rohit lived in the city. But in those days, he had come to the village on vacation. He told Gopal that he wanted to celebrate his birthday grandly. So they would have the party right outside the village, in the field. They would arrange everything for chicken and mutton. Gopal refused initially and clearly said that consuming non-veg here in the fields is forbidden. If the family found out, they wouldn't let him enter the house. But Rohit and the other friends insisted a lot. After a lot of refusal, Gopal finally agreed. All the friends reached his field. They set up a table near the hut, and then the party started. Everyone was very hungry. There was delicious food. Initially, Gopal tried very hard to avoid eating the food. But the friends pressured him so much that he also drank a little alcohol and just ate 2 morsels of bread. But he had no idea what was about to happen. All his friends left, but Mama stayed there because if he went home, the family might find out, and his family would scold him a lot. So in the dark, he buried all those bones and leftover stuff in a pit right there and slept in the hut. But at night, his sleep was broken by some strange sound. The sky was black and dense. Far away, trees were rustling and swaying in the wind. Sounds of dogs barking faintly could be heard. But that night was different, restless somehow. There was a strange chill in the air. No one was visible around, but there was definitely something there. Suddenly, he heard a faint but strange sound in his ears, an indistinct, frightening sound. At first, it seemed like someone was crying, but it wasn't the sound of a human crying. It was a sound from another world, stuck between an animal and a ghost. Gopal sat up, started looking outside from the hut, but there was nothing in front of him. The chill of the night entered inside the hut. Again, that sound came, now a little louder, a little clearer, like crying, panting, and with a slight sob. Gopal's heart started beating fast, but he convinced himself, maybe it's a person or some animal. As soon as he stepped out of the hut, suddenly he felt something wet and sticky on the ground below. When he looked down carefully, there was a red layer on the soil, like someone's blood, but it wasn't fresh. It had turned a little black, and seeing it, a shiver ran through his body. At that very moment, Mama's gaze went forward. On the pathway through the field, he saw a shadow slithering, crawling, far away. Mama looked more carefully, going a little farther from the hut door, and the blood in his body seemed to freeze. Far away, some large thing was limping, dragging itself, and sobbing, moving towards them. Mama rubbed his eyes and looked again. The thing had come a little closer, and at that moment he understood that this was no ordinary thing. That shadow was extremely strange. It didn't have hair all over its body, as if its skin had been peeled off. Reddish-golden skin, but there were tangled hair on its head. The body was limping, and with every movement, a strange creaking sound was coming, as if its bones were creaking. Gopal moved back a little. His legs were trembling, but he didn't have the courage to run. He was sitting there, stunned. That thing was slowly coming closer to him, and was now becoming clearly visible. It didn't have human eyes on its face, deep black, as if there was only darkness in them, and a terrifying scene of death was visible. Mama turned to stone and just kept watching that strange thing. Coming about 5 to 6 feet close, that thing stopped suddenly and, looking into Mama's eyes, tried to smile strangely. But that laughter wasn't human. It wasn't laughter at all. It was a silent gesture, as if it was saying, "You broke the rule, and now you will face the consequences." A cold and a rotten, putrid smell was coming from that strange creature. A mixed stench of blood, soil, and decay. That smell was so strong that Gopal started suffocating. The heartbeat in his chest became faster, and cramps started rising in his stomach, as if something was moving inside his stomach. That creature raised its long fingers. They weren't fingers. They were bones, the skeleton of human bones, and on them was layered rotten, putrid, wet flesh. Something like mud was dripping from them. And that hand started moving towards Gopal. And now he understood that if he didn't run now, this would be his last moment. But his body wasn't moving. Not even a sound was coming from his mouth. There was only the fast heartbeat, the noise echoing in his ears, and that approaching shadow of death from the front. That thing came right next to him. For a moment, Mama thought, "Is all this an illusion?" But just then, the creature standing in front of him, its face started contorting. The eyes turned white. The mouth seemed to split open, and a rotten, putrid tongue came out from inside. At that very moment, Mama felt as if someone had pushed him hard. Mama fell down with a thud and became unconscious there. When he regained consciousness, he was in the hospital. That night, his father sent everyone out of the house and sat quietly next to Gopal. And then he explained, "Look, son, there is something in the fields outside the village, and everyone knows this. Your luck was good that you survived, but don't make such a mistake again." Mama was so scared that day that for many days after that, he didn't even step out of the house. He also knew very well that what he saw that night was not ordinary. It wasn't human. And after that incident, Mama never turned towards the field again. A few years later, he left the village and moved to the city for a job. But he never set foot in the field again. He still feels that he only survived that night by chance. But he is still afraid to go towards the field. He feels that whatever that thing was, it is still buried somewhere under the soil, waiting for a way to come out again. So friends, that was the second story. Now let's start the third story. The name of this story is The Cursed Shadow. This incident that I'm about to tell is a terrifying event that happened at my friend's house. In Maharashtra, there are still many villages like this, where there is no trace of city-like crowds. One such village is Gorpada, full of greenery, surrounded by sugarcane fields, and a completely quiet area hidden between hills. My childhood friend Rahul Mukne lives in this very village. Rahul's house was the biggest and richest house in the village. His father, Shivaji Mukne, was one of the big farmers of the village. Large fields, poultry farm, bulls, vehicles, money, respect. They had everything. Rahul's mother's name was Manjula. I used to call her Kaki, auntie. She was a very simple, hard-working woman who gave her full support to her husband in farming. The biggest feature of Gorpada was its climate, soil, and fields. Everything was going fine in Rahul's house. But suddenly, a strange incident happened, and their entire family got stuck in a strange trouble. One Sunday evening, Rahul called me. "Hey bro, Mom's condition is very bad. Can't understand what's happening to her. We've shown her to a doctor too, but no use. Can you come to the village?" Fear was clearly evident in his voice, so I asked him, "What's happening to her? Tell me properly." So he just said, "You come to the village and see for yourself." I had a little knowledge of Vastu Shastra, and perhaps that's why he felt that I could help him in some way. The very next day, I reached his village by car. As soon as I stepped into the house, I felt the atmosphere of the house was very heavy. It felt as if some evil shadow was present in that house. A strange darkness had spread everywhere. Manjula Kaki was lying on the bed. Her face was completely pale. There was no life in her eyes, and there were strange itch marks and stains all over her body. She was itching so much that her skin had come off in places. As soon as I sat in her room, a strange rotten smell started coming. Like the smell of a rotting corpse. She couldn't bear light either, and that's why thick curtains were hung on the windows. I then looked at Rahul. His eyes were sunken too. People from the neighborhood were coming to check on her, but no one had any answers. Then Rahul told me. It started with just a cold and cough. We thought it would be a minor thing. Showed her to the village doctor. He gave medicine. But then, within a few days, my mother started getting itching on her body. First, we thought it might have happened from some poisonous plant in the field, or an allergy from some animal. But slowly, her skin started peeling off. We got more scared. Then took her to a big hospital. Got many tests done. The doctors there said it's some rare skin disease, but what it is, they didn't know either. After a little treatment, her condition improved a bit, and so we returned to the village. But as soon as we returned to the village, everything started again the very next day. Fever, fatigue, and terrible itching on the body, and then those same red stains, and her body's skin started rotting, and now we can't understand anything. In the village, people say that our house is so rich, and that's why someone has cast an evil eye on our house. Someone has done something. Rahul was telling me everything, but I also had no answers to his questions, because the little I knew about Vastu Shastra, I knew nothing about Tantra Mantra and black magic. I explained that to him too. Still, he asked me to stay at his house. Rahul's father's mind had also become very troubled now. He was searching for the reason for this illness, day and night, and Rahul was taking care of his mother at home. Meanwhile, an elderly man from the village, Tatya Mukne, took Shivaji Mukne aside and said, "Look, brother, I won't take anyone's name, but this matter seems fishy. I've spent my whole life in this village and have seen many such incidents. I think there are some people who can't bear to see your house's progress. Believe me, someone has definitely done something to your house." Shivaji Mukni fell into thought hearing his words. Then Tadia said, straight out, "Look, whatever you have to do it quickly, or else your wife will slip away from your hands. If you need, call an expert from outside." Now Shivaji Mukni decided that whatever had to be done must be done quickly. Until now, he was only looking for treatment, but now he got involved in finding out who had done what to his house. The very next day, I and Rahul's father went to a nearby village, Hanumante. An experienced exorcist lived there. His name was Bala Jadhav. Bala Jadhav looked like a completely ordinary person, but people from far away came to him with their troubles. Everyone said he had something special. He could sense evil powers. Shivaji Mukni told him the whole story. That Bala Jadhav thought for a while, then closed his eyes and tried to feel something. And finally, shaking his head, he said, "I'm not feeling anything right now. Perhaps I'll have to come to your house and see. Only then can something be known." Then Shivaji Mukne joined his hands and said, "Whatever you have to do, please do it quickly, or else my wife won't survive." And the very next day, Bala Jadhav went to their house. He had a bag in his hand. It contained a coconut. small balls of black incense, and some strange medicine-like things. As soon as he entered the house, he did a chakri. Chakri means he walked around the entire house, going around in circles. He didn't have to break the coconut, just carry it around. He saw the courtyard and every corner of the house, but he didn't feel anything there. And then Bala Jadhav said, "I am feeling a little strange in the house, but no clear indication is found." At that very moment, Rahul spoke up. "There's an old bathroom behind the house. No one uses it now. It's just lying there unused." And as soon as Bala Jadhav reached that spot, his face became stern. He placed the coconut on the ground there, and the coconut started shaking on its own. Then he placed the black incense balls there, and that incense suddenly caught fire. And then he looked at us and said, "Whatever has been buried behind your house, it is right here." Getting up from there, Bala Jadhav said to Shivaji Mukne, "Call 2 laborers. We'll have to excavate here." In just a little while, Shivaji Mukne called 2 laborers from the village, and the excavation of that spot started. Initially, only stones and soil came out. After that, wet soil, and finally, a large plastic bundle was found. Bala Jadhav took that bundle out, placed it on a piece of ground nearby, and opened it to look. Inside, wrapped in black cloth, was a white cloth doll. It was completely tangled in hair. Small needles were pierced all over the doll's body. There was black vermilion on its forehead. A lemon was placed nearby, which had rotted. And there were some nails in it, and a strange, rotten smell was coming from all of it. Seeing this, everyone's hair stood on end. I was also astonished. Lifting that doll with a stick, Bala Jadhav said, "As this doll is rotting, exactly in the same way, your wife's body is rotting." Finally, that doll was taken out and, taken far from the house, was placed in a deserted spot. In just a little while, the atmosphere in the house felt somewhat lighter. But fear and anxiety were clearly visible on the face of every person in the house. But now that this doll matter had come to light, Shivaji Mukne became very angry. Many questions started revolving in his mind. Who could have done this? Who is it that wishes them ill, and why is he after them? Bala Jadhav started staring at that doll, looking at it with a deep gaze, and then he said, "This doll probably wasn't here before. Someone came one night in the last few months and buried it here, and this work can only be done by someone knowledgeable from the village, not an outsider." And hearing this, Shivaji Mukne got very angry, and in anger he blurted out, "But who could it be?" Then Bala Jadhav remained silent for a while, and after thinking for some time, he said, "The answer to this won't come immediately. But remember one thing, until this doll is burned, you people cannot live in peace. And if you want to find out who did all this, you will have to have a little patience. I have some hints, but it wouldn't be right to name directly. But it is certain that the person who did all this is someone from your own family." Shivaji Mukne was listening to his words silently. That night, Bala Jadhav started a worship in a specific spot in a field behind the house. That worship was such that it made our hair stand on end. Incense, agarbatti, black threads, coconut, lemon, and some mantras. That night, I was also present there. The village air seemed to have stopped. The doll was placed in the middle of all of us and burned. And while burning, a strange, rotten smell was coming from inside it. And the most frightening thing was that as soon as that doll started burning, back in the house, Manjula Kaki's body also started stiffening. She fell to the ground and started writhing in pain. And at that time, strange sounds were also coming from her mouth. And we were all scared that something might happen to Manjula Kaki. Finally, Bala Jadhav gave a black thread and the water he had kept to Manjula Kaki. And then he said, "This is water from the Narmada River. Sprinkle it on your body, and for the next 3 days, do not step out of the house. Do not go anywhere. If any outsider gives you something to eat, do not eat it. For the next 3 days, you will have to be very alert. Pause. The next day, a rumor spread in the village that the Mukne family had performed tantric worship at their house. The spark of suspicion had now ignited in Shivaji Mukne's mind. He had a big house, 2 brothers, a large family, farming, money, respect. He had everything. But in the last few years, tension had increased in the house, especially his younger brother's wife, Rekha Bobby. Rekha Bobby couldn't bear the happiness and peace of their house. She would always complain, and there were always fights and disputes in the house because of her. Suspicion had now settled in Shivaji Mukne's heart. But he didn't want to name anyone openly. In 2-3 days, Manjula Kaki's health started improving a little. The blue-black marks on her body started fading. The itching on her body also gradually decreased, but the atmosphere in the house was still heavy. On the 3rd day, Bala Jadhav came again to see Kaki, and once again, looking at the atmosphere of that house, he said, "Whatever shadow was here, whatever evil thing was here, has been destroyed, but its effect still remains. Your relatives must have found out by now that you have removed the black magic done on your house. And now they are trying to trouble your house from a distance. So tell me properly, do you suspect anyone?" Shivaji Mukne remained silent for a while then. But Rahul couldn't contain himself. He angrily blurted out, "I suspect my aunt, Chachi. Her behavior is strange. Her talks are also strange. Always keeps talking about some worship or the other. Her talks bother me. Whenever she comes home, she looks with strange eyes. And yes, until a few months ago, she used to come home every day. But suddenly, she has stopped coming. I am sure she is the one who got all this done." Bala Yadav became a little serious and said, "Look, one thing is certain, that the effect of something is still remaining here. And this work is of someone from the house itself, and whoever it is, they envy you. But remember, do not take anyone's name in this. Perhaps if the truth comes out, the consequences could be very dangerous." End quote, end quote. Finally, Shivaji Mukne made a big decision and called a meeting at home. The entire family and some elderly people from the village were called, and in front of everyone, he laid out the whole matter. That night, I was also there. Shivaji Mukne said very seriously, "What has happened to my wife is not just an illness. It is the result of the hatred of one of our own. I will not take anyone's name, but remember one thing. I have not wished ill upon anyone. If anyone has wished me ill, I will not sit quietly. And if something like this happens again, I will not spare that person alive. I will bury the entire family alive." The whole house fell silent. No one was speaking. But on some faces, the feeling of guilt was clearly visible. Those who were sensible understood everything, and after that night, whatever was happening in the Mukne house slowly stopped. And in the next few months, Manjula Kaki's health gradually started improving, and finally, after 3 months, she completely recovered. So friends, that was today's story. So friends, those were today's 3 horror stories. Which of these stories did you like the most? Please do comment and tell me. So that's all for today. We'll meet in the next episode with another such horror story. Until then, thank you.